Yeah.
Okay, I think we have a quorum, so we'll call the meeting to order. Just taking visual attendance. We have Commissioner McEnany, Commissioner Jones, Commissioner McEnany, Commissioner Volke, myself, and Director Don Rittner. Sorry. Just want to start first by expressing my gratitude to all of you and to Don and especially to Maeve for stepping into the breach while I was dealing with some family health issues. So I very much appreciate that. It looks like things might settle down a little bit on my end for a bit. Looking forward to a little bit of a lull, and then hopefully after the first of the year things will pick back up again. So, but I do very much appreciate. It's nice knowing that you can put something personally off to the side for a bit and it's still moving forward. So thank you all for doing that. We'll dive right into the agenda under old business. We'll start as we often do with any update on the Henry Knox observance for this December.
It's coming together very well. The person who's really taking the lead on it is Heidi Hill in the mansion, and our own Sandy from the Van Skyke mansion. And for Albany County is concerned, you'll wake up in the morning early and there'll be horses, and the horses will be with the sledge will be up in Peebles Island. And Peebles Island is across the old railroad bridge, but that's where they'll be. It's technically in Waterford, and then it will move down along Continental Avenue over the bridge. Now you're in Albany County, and it'll be down at Van Vorie at the DAR headquarters in the Van Skyke mansion. They're going to hang out there until 11:30 or 12. At 12 o'clock, hopefully we'll have some reenactors there, and if we don't have their reenactors, we have people who regularly come to the Schuyler Mansion that Heidi has. And then there's going to be there's going to be a 2-hour period in between, so starting at 2 o'clock, we'll be at the mansion. And that means they have to have lunch, and we might be asked to help provide some lunches for some of the people that are doing this. And what I'm wondering, I know it's Sunday, but I think if we did this right and it gets the publicity that it deserves, I would love to see it at the Quackenbush House. And the reason is that I would love to get, at some point in the course of our commission, I'd like to get a cardboard cutout of General Johnny Burgoyne and Colonel Henry Quackenbush, who, before he had to go through the mortification of going through the stockaded city, which is essentially where Broadway enters, where Orange Street is. The folklore, tradition, and possibly even the truth, before he had to go in there with a mob of people inside there ready to say just how insulted they were and the deaths that they suffered and everything else. Traditionally, the colonel said, look, you might want to have a drink before you go in. And it might not have been lemonade. And I would love to have a cardboard, you can buy them, if you go down to the railroad station in Washington, D.C., you can get them. You can take them home because they fold in threes, and they had, obviously I had a Biden and I had Obama, and I used to put it in the office, and the foreign visitors would go and stand next to it, and they look real. They have Ronald Reagan, they have a whole bunch of things, but these things can be done. They're cut like a silhouette, and it looks almost photographic. And at some point, we're not going to be able to do it overnight, but
I'll check and see if I can find a company that makes those.
We should.
I used to have Mr. Spock in my house.
Yeah, but you got to have a picture. And also you make them whatever the real height is, so it looks good. But at some point, I'd like to get the Quackenbush House. It's a shame we call it Old English Pub.
I know, I
Well,
don't get that.
I do, because the couple that took it over, it was Nicole's before that. Before that, Lynn Gasberry had one. And his was more of a luncheon type place. Hers was more elegant, because she had moved down from the old
Right.
Dayline building. And then another guy has just taken it over again. And
It was Mark's family. Mark was English.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, the
was,
owner
yeah.
was English, and
and
he
he
missed having
always-
an English pub. So
Every time I eat in there though, I say
Yeah.
to the waiter, I go, how come there's not the old Dutch pub?
yeah, because
We're
it was
getting
Mark's
there.
family.
And he did a real good job. You
Yeah.
know, there's lots of Churchill and stuff like that, but I'd like at least to have the name Quackenbush House. And at some point during our tenure, we should get a proper Pomeroy or a metal sign that
Yeah,
says the problem is that some people, the property, the date is 1685. 83 actually, same year that Albany County is established. And when the state decided to tear it down, they said it was 1730. Now they say it's 1728, but nobody's ever done the wood
the
testing.
dendro,
No, they didn't.
we could do that.
No, we could do that, and it's
Could we get
it's
permission
owned
to
by
get in?
the city.
Because I have all the equipment and I just did
We're
a couple places in Gilliland.
Yeah, I've been working at it, but it would have to come from an outside force.
Yeah.
We're too close to it. And, but my guess is some of it probably goes back to the day the family owned it. The family owned it in 83, and they lived in it until 65. They rented it for 3 more years, and they sold it, and it became commercial. But they lived there. They went to the Dutch church across the street. Yes, they had slaves. And there's a wonderful story there on the evolution of what do you do with one of these houses, and you've got teenagers that are embarrassed because it looks so old-fashioned. And so they keep updating the interior of it with everything from whitewashing it to polishing all the smoothing off all the adze marks on the beams, and then finally they put wallpaper over the beams, and the final is they drop the ceiling to make it stay up to
With the times.
Keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, under the new business we can talk about it, but they will be involved in the I Love New York fan tour.
Well,
so.
Unfortunately it's Sunday. Our day is the 14th, which is Sunday.
Yeah, they'll be open. They're open on Sundays.
Yeah, why don't you give me a heads up on it, because we can make a real big deal
Yeah.
out of that.
Yeah.
And what we need to figure out how to feed them, and I'll have more details on that
Yeah.
as far as.
December
Okay.
14th,
I would also recommend that on Columbus Day weekend is Siege Day.
It's path through history too.
Yeah, and they're certified in that up in Schuylerville. It's the Schuyler House up there, and they have lots of reenactment going on. They're certainly married to the battlefield and so on, but it's Fort Hardy Park, which is Schuylerville, and that's something, if anybody has any time to go to it, I'm going to show up for all
Yeah,
or part
I
of
think
it.
I'm gonna go.
That's a real good one.
Okay, tall ships. I know at the Lake George conference, there was a presentation. Maeve, you wanna kind of fill us in?
Yeah, I mean, they, they still keep alluding to Albany as a space that the tall ships will be coming. I felt like they were a little more definitive about the Navy ship that was here, that's who has been talking to the Port of Albany. So it sounds like the Navy boat that's gonna be there was it the 5th and 6th, the 5th or 6th here in Albany. It sounds like they are part of that tall ships, but you know, they're still talking about coming to Albany, but we haven't had any contact of any of the historic ships, so I think we just again continue to do our programming, that, you know, that there's gonna be these opportunities. But yeah, I thought his presentation, I didn't hear anything particularly new, that we hadn't heard at the last presentation.
One thing that was new to me was the extent of the boat parade that will be part of the presentation down in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And it struck me that it would be interesting if we could have an Albany presence in that particular parade.
You know, we did it.
On Rust or
In
something.
2009, John Russ and Halfmoon brought 300 ships up to Albany,
Mm-hmm.
and there was nobody there to greet them,
Mm-hmm.
and the Dutch were not happy about that.
I don't know, that might be an opportunity for us to participate. And it's not necessarily doing something in our jurisdiction for our people, but it's making sure we're not overlooked, you know, in the in that celebration. Just throw it out there as a, you know, if you know of any.
I could talk to the Islands people, but, because that's now a floating museum up in Essex, Connecticut, and Halfmoon, as we know, is not even in the country, so.
The Onrus would be nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it was the Onrus that helped found Albany, so
Where is the Onrus now?
it's up at the Maritime Museum in Essex, Connecticut. And they also changed the rigging, which I'm not happy about, because the original Sprit rigging was changed. It's a dangerous rigging.
For all we know, they may be already participating. Do you think that
That's-
something
yeah.
in that such close proximity to New York and historical, so maybe it might be more of a, hey, are you guys in this? Can we
Yeah.
sponsor you?
Yeah.
What I'm looking at is just so that if they have any signage or any banners on the ship, you know,
Yeah.
the word Albany is somewhere in this parade,
Yeah.
right?
And they could come up later on too.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to get the bateau, the two bateaus that the baby farm has, because that's what they use. They use the bateaus, and they made two really good repros of the bateaus, and there's a group that I think it's the group that's part of the Second Albany Militia, maybe, that takes them out. So I think I could probably get those.
Are they seaworthy in terms of New York
Well,
Harbor?
they take them up down the Mohawk all the time.
But New York Harbor is bigger than the Mohawk. I mean, are they big enough to participate
What do you
in
mean,
it?
in Albany or here, or in Albany? I mean, New York.
No,
or
in New York.
Albany?
Yeah,
No,
it
that
sounds like they
harbor
might
in
not be
New
big
York, the
enough, yeah.
water there is from.
The thing is, too, you're gonna be one of probably 1,000 ships of one kind or another. Everybody who has a yacht is gonna be out there somewhere.
I mean, we could probably get them for Albany anyways, have the bateaus in Albany.
Okay. Yeah, look into it.
Yeah.
This is very inconvenient. I apologize. I should have printed out the.
But no updates from the port on that. They're focused right now on the kind of helping support the replica Erie Canal boat, the Seneca Chief, which is going to be here in October, which I can also throw into new business
Okay.
as well.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Pictures. It looks nice.
Yeah.
This should be Plan of Union. Any update on our Plan of Union project?
No specific update other than something relating to it. Just through pure coincidence and happenstance, I was introduced to Scott Hefner, who I find out later, I didn't know who he was at the time, but I find out later he's the caretaker and curator of the Fort Johnson
With Rachel.
museum, and so I'm going to reach out to him and talk to him about what we've been doing with the New York State Museum and see if what he has to add to the puzzle as we continue to figure out how we're going to display the minutes and what we're going to do in the next couple of years.
I'm a member of that Montgomery County Historical.
Do you guys know Scott? Because
I know Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, Rachel.
I met him at a wake of all places,
Yeah, Rachel-
and then
Rachel used to run one of the, Rachel Blivett, she used to
Yeah,
run one of the
she's
local.
still, I think she's still there.
Well, she's running the, but she used to run something down here,
Yeah, the
years ago.
Hudson Mohawk Industrial
Yeah.
Gateway.
well, that's all I have.
Okay. July 4th, 2026. One thing that that struck me again we attended the Lake George conference. That's why these conferences are good, because they
Yes.
stimulate thoughts that aren't necessarily on the agenda. But it does seem like it's again going to be similar to what I remember from the bicentennial, is that the events of that day are going to be very focused, centrally focused nationally, right? And then very granular down to the family level,
Yeah.
you know, anywhere else that isn't New York or Philadelphia on that
Mhm.
day, right?
Yeah.
It just seems like it's gearing towards that, and that makes some sense. If that is in fact the case, you know, how does that inform our decisions and what have you, you know, and it sort of begs the question, is there an appetite, will there be an appetite in our community to do something that is essentially a Albany County community type event? And I'm, you know, I guess my point is I'm not so sure.
Well, we're gonna do Light Up the Hudson, right?
Well, yes, but
But that's just a one night.
What's the day of the week?
it's a Saturday.
And you know you're gonna have Price Chopper put everything there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
you've
trying to
got
get a
that-
hold of them
You've got
to
that
see
as
if
a
they will
minimum.
join us to do it all at the same time.
Yeah.
Or find out what time they're gonna do it, and then have all the other communities do it at the same time.
Mhm.
And then we have some drones up there, get some
I'm,
pictures.
I'm wondering if it's too much on the day, if it's more appropriate when the Navy ship is,
Yeah.
if they come in Sunday. Because people are gonna have their July 4th plans and their tradition, but if it's the weekend, we want people to stay the weekend having something else planned, and then we're not stepping on Price Chopper's toes, and
Mhm.
we're not competing with some
Well,
of these smaller
You
municipalities.
mean Light Up the Hudson on a different day?
Like the next day, I would
Oh,
say, like
next
that
day?
July.
Yeah.
If we
Yep.
if we know people are coming down to see the Navy ship,
But the idea, I understand, the idea of the let is to coordinate fireworks displays that
Yeah.
are already going to be
that's
Yeah.
in
true.
the works.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
we can get,
That's true.
you know,
yeah.
Cahoes if they're gonna do water
Yeah.
fireworks
Good
to
point.
They're
change.
gonna do
Good
it,
point.
let's just make it all done at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coordinate it that way,
And-
and then Light Up the Hudson.
The way I understand this initiative is it would take front-end coordination with the entities that are going to be putting on these things. Price Chopper at the plaza
Mhm.
and any other local community, right? To say, here's what we'd like to do, we'd like to,
We've got 5 signed up already.
right, okay, so that's, but then after that, I think it's a marketing initiative,
Mhm.
right? Of, okay, what is how will people know about this?
Right.
Right? And, you know, and I think the real sort of takeaway for the individual consumer is awareness of various locations where they can see fireworks that night and still participate in, you know, it's sort of a countywide thing. And then the third element, as I understand it, is there some, you know, physical presentation, some physical device, something that can link this experience across the various locations, right? So that when you're in Cahoes, or if you're in Queens, and if you're in downtown Albany, watching the fireworks in that particular place, there's something in the course of that 20 or 30 minutes that you are made aware of the fact that you are being linked through this initiative with your, you know, counterpart, your fellow citizens of the county.
How about some reenactors on the bateaus going down from Waterford?
Anything by water would be,
Yeah,
would
and
be
have,
helpful.
have
yeah.
reenact to be all dressed up.
And you'd
You know,
start
have
at
bateaus,
Queens
which are
and-
authentic.
Of the 5, how many are actually waterfront? Like if you're at Empire State Plaza, you're not
Well,
gonna be able
there's
to.
Cahoes, Waterford, let's see, Hastings on a, I mean, there's 2 downstate that are,
what is,
obviously, Castleton, I think, and maybe Hastings or Athens.
What about-
I forgot. They agreed to do it at the same time. I asked all the river
This is
communities
the,
all the way down to Kingston if they would do it, and I've only gotten
this
replies.
is the drones one, or?
No.
This would be the fireworks, shooting
Timing
fireworks off
fireworks.
at the same time,
Mm.
the exact same time. We'll have drones up there. You'll be able to look all the way down the Hudson. You'll be
What if
able
it's
to
an audio something? If it's something that we all knew that we could tune in and hear the same thing. and whether that's a narrative or if we wanted to go dreamy or some kind of piece of music or something
Like
that.
the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, something like the Declaration of Independence, or just
Somebody
something
reciting the
that we could
Declaration.
all just, you know,
That's an idea. Do they still make pyrotechnics that actually do a physical display through the fireworks? Remember how like when you're
They
Yeah,
still
like
do the
George
ground,
Washington's
the
speech.
ground
Like
ones
the
they do,
flag.
but I don't know about the air.
Yeah, I've seen flags.
Yeah,
and,
I mean
and
drones taking
stars.
over.
yeah.
That might be an if that's technologically possible, a common Albany County
Yeah.
firework that will be
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
of each one of the participating.
Even if it's like a blue and gold or something, like.
Yeah, I mean, preferably it's something that people, when they actually see it, it literally
Yeah.
says Albany
Um,
County. But
So Siena College did a drone show. I just noticed they shared it. I don't know who they work with, and I think they projected the college. I think they did the iconic dome
yeah,
with it. So
well, I think at the last
George
meeting I
did
said
it, too.
Lake George does it in the summertime,
Lake George
and I was blown away.
it's
Yeah,
cool.
they did
I
a
mean,
good
I was
job.
blown away.
Cool to do the drone where you start at
Yeah.
the beginning of the county and work all the way down to the end.
That,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
On the
would be really
river.
That would be
cool.
even better.
Yeah.
So if they had,
Are each of the fireworks displays being put on by different entities,
Well,
companies, or are they all the
you know,
same?
Coast does theirs, whoever they hire to do them.
It seems like there's
I didn't know they.
logistical
Yeah, Coast
challenge
said
there
that
trying to
they
get
were
around
in.
it.
Well, it's just a matter of whoever's doing it, they, synchronize their watch. 9 o'clock, light them up.
Mhm.
I mean, that's really the only complicated part of it.
I think
It doesn't matter where they, I mean, they're gonna shoot
No,
'em,
no, that I
they're always
understand, but
shooting.
trying to get some type of coordination between the 4 or 5 different, Joe's fireworks are over here and Pete's fireworks are over here.
Well, we should leave that up to the municipalities that are gonna do it. They need to tell their people when to shoot them off. I mean, that shouldn't be difficult. I mean, ABC explosives, all right, 8 o'clock sharp, that's when you're gonna light them up. You go over to Joe Blow and say, at 8 o'clock, you light them up.
right. But again, just the fact that they're going off at the same time is not really a,
No, you're right, you need a hook.
yeah, there needs to
Right.
be
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
common thread,
Right.
physical.
But yeah, like having something coming down the river, having somebody read the Declaration of
Let's try to
Independence.
maybe ahead of our next meeting, if you can find out as much as you can, particularly about the drone
Yeah.
concept.
the drone
Check it.
concept would be
Yeah.
cool.
Because I think anyone who's
The
seen
drone would
it,
be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Just
what's kind
excited
of neat
by it.
about the drones, because I'm thinking, back when I was cooler, I would watch the shows from the rooftops of my friends on Lark Street.
Right.
You would be able to see the drones for the people who are not necessarily seeing a traditional show, but, or the people over in Rensselaer who watch,
Mhm.
from the Walmart parking lot, they'd be able to see the
Yeah.
drones, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
yeah. So if
we-
you can
I'll
make
check
it
I'll check
your
the
business to
drones.
learn as much as we can about that.
Yeah.
And-
I'd start with reaching out to the folks that coordinate the show in Lake George, because it really
Yeah,
was.
Exactly, what we're gonna do,
impressive.
and I know who to call. It's the-
So-
they're
I was just gonna say, the expense too, it's my understanding they're not
It's
cheap.
probably not
No.
gonna be cheap.
And can we act as the agent to, if we decide this is something that's worth it, the agent to raise the funds quickly enough to see if we can,
That's
Mhm.
that's our job.
Can we
Right.
get
basically.
it in our budget for next year?
We have to frame it up.
but we don't have that much
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
We're
We
a
don't
year
want to
away.
necessarily
Yeah.
use our whole budget just for this.
Oh no,
one
I don't
project.
envision
Yeah.
using
No,
any
I'm
of it.
thinking beyond our budget.
Yeah,
We need to
exactly.
raise the
Using
funds
Well,
outside
outside
of
Or
it.
we can ask the 5 municipalities to chip in,
Mhm.
Yeah.
once we get a price.
I think, I envision we need enough information to support
Mhm.
a 2-page proposal,
Mhm.
right? And saying, here's what this is. Here's what it'll be. Here's why we think it's gonna be impactful. Here's who's on board,
Mhm.
right? So we need all that work done in advance of making this proposal.
Yeah.
And then we say, the companies are lined up, the municipalities are lined up, here's who we're envision working with in terms of a marketing plan, whatever, and sit down with a major commercial sponsor and say, are you interested? Right?
Mhm.
And if they are, awesome. Then, they're the primary sponsor, we're the coordinator, and hopefully it'll.
Mhm.
MVP is always a sponsor of stuff. Troy Savings Bank is a big sponsor of things. So there's a lot of places around that do sponsor
Yeah.
big events.
But
Yeah.
before we would reach out to that type of entity, we have to have
it.
We
have
actually
to
have,
have
a-
ducks in
and
a
have a
Yeah,
sponsorship
have our
package,
ducks, yeah,
like
exactly.
a
Have our
real
ducks in a row.
beautiful looking sponsorship package.
Exactly. And I think, we have to have that by, the first of the year,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh,
Because these
we're gonna
people are
have
making
it.
their
Yeah.
marketing and promotional budgets for the,
Because they book way out, I mean,
Yeah.
especially that day.
yeah.
Yes.
Is it easier to target one or two primary sponsors, or try
Yes.
to?
Or if we got 5 municipalities, because they're gonna want some little hook in, mention of goals,
Yeah.
mention of all.
It's a lot easier to enhance what they're already gonna
Yeah.
do
Exactly.
anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so by next meeting, we'll have a firmer understanding of what technologies and what are available to us in terms of what the thing would be. And we'll shoot towards, by the end of the year, having, if we can get put the ducks in a row,
Yep.
and, have some sort of package that we could take to commercial sponsors. And if they're not interested, then,
Yep.
we did our best.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see, the Tenbrook exhibit. This is something that I think we discussed at a previous meeting. I had reached out to the folks at the Albany County Historical Society, which of course is headquartered in Tenbrook Mansion, the city home of General Abraham Tenbrook, who was the commander of the Albany County Militia. Very, very important, particularly in the Battle of Saratoga. Also reached out to the new director of the Goderland Library, which is the home of General Tenbrook's summer or country home in French's Hollow in the town of Guilderland, and just to assess their interest in putting on and hosting some sort of exhibit on General Tenbrook.
Is there anything left of what he had in
It's
French's
underwater,
Hollow?
isn't it?
No, it's downstream from the
Oh, it is
from the dam.
downstream.
Yeah, I
Is it
I
archi-
don't know the
Yeah.
answer to that.
Maybe it's an
honestly.
archaeological site.
Could be.
That could be a project.
But so what we discussed was a physical exhibit that would be able to be presented at both Tenbrook Mansion
Mhm.
and the Goderland Library, with some kickoff sort of event at each place, perhaps
Mhm.
with a lecture, and then have it be up for a couple weeks. It just seems he's sort of the
Do
under.
it twice or do it once? Would you have one thing and have it there and then let them have it for a month and then it goes to the library?
That's what I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a pop-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that could be
Okay.
physically
Yeah.
moved. Probably at the library and then going to Tenbrook where it can reside if they,
Mhm. And
Well,
if
and
there's,
in the New York State Museum. They might put it in there, because I'm talking to Ken about
okay,
pop-ups.
okay, yeah, that's, sure.
Ken Mortensen, who's the president, is my cousin, if that helps facilitate,
president of what?
Of
of the
who?
Albany Historical Society in Tenbrook.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so-
Yeah, I sent an email to the director, I'm waiting to hear back.
The City Historical Society.
And so, and Don and I were talking,
No, that's-
Yeah, they're the
Yeah,
county.
okay.
Yeah, they're the
County
county
historical.
historical. Yeah.
Okay.
if we can, If we-
Yeah.
if we can execute this one exhibit, then that would be a template for other
Yes,
similar type
Sure.
things. And again, we talked when we did the initial framing of the grant concept, that one of our objectives was to have at the end of the whole process of the various grants, that there would be similar enough in their orientation that it would lend itself to some publication at the end.
Mhm.
The grant process has kind of taken a little more dimension to it, and I don't know that objective is necessarily going to be met by the grant process, and that's fine because there's other things that people want to do that don't necessarily result in a written work that can, be a book. But maybe this exhibit, and I'm thinking, the type of publications that accompany major exhibits from the Albany Institute, right? That have a memorial in the form of a written product. So if we do this exhibit concept, do it following a template, and then have
Like
the
the
content
Washington
at the
exhibit.
end. Yeah, something like that. But you know, and maybe the theme is, you know, revolutionary people,
Mhm.
right? And just figure out, okay, who are the ones who we want to put a spotlight on? Tenbrook, Schuyler, Caesar the slave in the town of Bethlehem, you know,
Yeah.
Mother Ann Lee, right? I mean,
Yeah.
across both a subject matter diversity and a geographic diversity across the county. You know, where are places where we can have these things that would be impactful? And as we talked yesterday, we were thinking, you know, it doesn't necessarily just have to be confined to a library or a historic site. You know, maybe we do something at Indian Ladder Farm.
Put it in the
or at-
malls.
Right.
In the malls.
Yeah, where people, you know,
People gather.
meet people where they are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea behind this. So it's not a one-off. As we focus on General Tenbrook to
Right.
start, we'll be thinking of sort of elements that can then be replicated, right? And maybe the component of the written product at the end is, you know, whatever sort of public presentation we would have, whatever lecture we would ask the presenter to follow a certain format that then we could reproduce at the end.
We still maybe they'll get a publication, because when I was talking to Catherine at the museum, they have a New York history seminar, and I said, well, we would like to do some kind of a seminar, and she thought, well, maybe we could give you a day of it or something, so that we could have people present,
Okay.
and then we could take whoever presents stuff on our behalf, we could take that, and if there's really good stuff from their side, then we could ask to publish it together, maybe as a museum, Albany County, you know, cooperative publication. They
Okay.
seem to have some money,
Mhm.
and Catherine Morehouse, she's the head of the education, is really gung ho about working with us and doing things. So I
We
think
should
that
also
is a
find
good-
a way that if we sponsor a lecture, we want to make sure it's taped and it can go
Right.
on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
And so on.
And they do that, she does that, they do
Yeah.
that for all their stuff.
But your
So-
point is, if we do it ourselves,
Yeah.
we should make that one of the elements.
Yeah,
One
Michael,
of the
Michael-
deliverables as
Yeah.
part of the.
Yeah.
as
Michael,
part of
you
the
wanna put
concept.
that on your list?
Okay, so I'll task you with, and I'll certainly work with you on framing up Tenbrook as a, you know,
Beginning, yeah,
exactly.
the
Um,
template.
We should also should include the unit of the militia that he commanded.
Right,
Mhm.
Right, because,
there's a list of all the people that was in his unit.
yeah,
What about also making some kind of educational component of that we can take that and give
yeah,
it to
but
schools?
somewhere along the line that.
Could be the
they have-
video and an accompanying,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
book.
not, he's not just a rich person who married very well.
right.
Right.
Yeah,
So we
right.
want to make sure that all the rank and file felt comforted going on this Albany.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Well,
find
to that-
files of those people too.
To that end, I'll take the initiative on sort of framing up, like, again, assuming we can execute against this initial template, I'll frame up for the commission's consideration, you know, a framework of who we would envision highlighting, you know, in subsequent iterations of this.
I'll
Again,
send
I
you
think-
what I have some of this.
Okay. And I think I'm on solid ground in appreciating the sort of the interest of the commission as a whole, that we want both subject matter diversity, right? From our very first meeting, I remember, we all were in agreement that this is not about just generals and,
Right.
you know, battles, right? So we want subject matter diversity, and we also want geographic diversity across the county, right? So those will guide my work, and then maybe for next commission meeting, if not the November meeting, I'll have a framework that we can align on and say, yeah, this is, and I also invite you all to think, you know, who do you think should be worthy
How
of
about
being?
we include also within our framework some of the more obscure. I always think back in my studies to Jonathan Kidney, who was a character in Albany. He joined the American Revolution at the age of 16 or 17. Was a Revolutionary War hero. Was a cannoneer. Comes back to Albany and was known in Albany for firing the cannon off whenever there was a festival or any dignitary
Yeah,
came to Albany.
yeah.
And then it ended up in a not so good situation somewhere near State Street where he actually ended up in a cannon fight with another cannoneer, and he was just a character.
He died in his 80s.
But yeah, and so I think it would be great to discover some of the more obscure characters of the Revolution.
I like that, but the challenge when you do an exhibit, if you're obscure, you don't have a lot of stuff on
True.
you that can
True.
then form the basis of a.
I want to put out to the commission, so Ann Lee, you brought up Mother Ann Lee, and the Shakers are 2026 is their, so it's also their 250th as
Yeah.
well. There's a movie that's making the rounds internationally right now. It is a musical about Mother Ann Lee with Amanda Seyfield.
Sorry.
It's not quite like a, it's not
Counterintuitive.
like, yeah, it's, well, no, the Shaker music, so it's not.
Is it racy?
No, it is not racy. So it is more, look at, you want another Hamilton on your hands, we could get
I
overshadowed.
know, exactly.
Right?
We
could
would have
over-
laughed if someone
Yes.
proposed Hamlet, right?
Right, the
Yeah,
Hamilton.
right?
So this is more, it's not so much she comes out and sings an original song, they're taking the Shaker hymns.
We know why they're called Shakers,
And,
right?
yep. So this is what they're doing.
Is this
but-
all going to be interpretive dancing?
No, Shaker dancing.
Oh,
The
that's
Shaker
funny.
dancing.
Really?
Yeah,
Seriously?
it's all Shaker
Wow.
dancing. It's all
Oh my
Shaker
God.
hymns. It did very well at the Venice Film Festival. It hasn't been distributed here yet, but it is making the rounds at the other
Wow.
film festivals.
Cool.
So there's a little bit of Oscar buzz right now because
Nice.
she performed. So that being said, though, is that the Shaker Heritage Society, who I met with, they are looking at like. She was a contemporary of Washington, and she was doing her own revolution.
And,
Well, this
and
revolution.
she's a pacifist.
And she's a pacifist.
Well,
and-
exactly, and
Yeah.
and she and they represent an element that was very much at play in this county
Yes.
in 1776, which is the indifferent.
Right.
We have patriots, we have Tories, but we also had a big mass of indifferent, and the Shakers,
And the
totally
Quakers.
Shakers and Quakers
Yeah.
personify that, right?
So I just want to put that to the commission as we're looking at these figures, and this is something that, they're looking ahead to. Like I said, I don't think it'll be Hamilton mania, but who knows, that there will likely be
Yeah.
people in
Yeah.
Albany County, if it gets picked up and it comes to the United States, and people are going to go, oh, like she's buried in Albany County.
Yeah.
So I was, thinking that we should position ourselves as well, and the Shaker
Absolutely.
Heritage Site is also thinking that way.
I would go so far as to see you and raise you on that
Yeah.
point, agree with you completely, and say maybe that because of the timing,
Yeah.
that and gender diversity and a whole host
Well,
of other
they're
reasons,
often African American.
that should be
Really, yeah.
the second one we do.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
Right.
That'd be good.
And the other thing is, Colony is the second largest jurisdiction in our county,
Yeah.
and it deserves its place. So
Yeah.
I think that's I'm
So
totally
everybody file that away.
totally in agreement.
Now,
We're
I'm
talking
gonna
about
leave
the
here
Historical
in
Society.
about 2 minutes, because I gotta get this tooth fixed, but I'd like to move that we approve the minutes for the record, with the understanding that the typo of $500 should be $1,500 maximum for the horses for the Knox Cannon Group.
Okay. So moved. I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, great. So we also, I think the Lake George Conference this year is separate, but I think that falls into a broader category that we usually do under old business, which is sort of public-facing events.
And we're getting money. That was one thing that came up at the conference. Did we talk
Yes.
about that? Okay.
No, we haven't.
Oh, okay.
We're getting money?
We're getting money.
So in the broader category of sort of public-facing events that have occurred or are about to occur, I'll turn, Maeve, if you can fill us in on the Lake George Conference
Yeah.
and what you thought was significant.
Yes.
You did a great job at it. by the way.
Thank you. I had the toughest spot in that it was running over, and I was right before lunch, and you could see people were really antsy. So I was more than happy to just keep it tight. But I think we positioned ourselves as leaders in a way, just from when I had people come up to me. The Washington County historian came up to me afterwards, gave me his card, and he's like, well, we couldn't get involved with Knox this year, but they're looking at a Burgoyne Trail in the coming years, and they said we really want to make sure that Albany is a part of that. Again, I'm hearing from the Albany Capital Center group, they're like, we really want you to come and speak again to us. So I think that doing these types of presentations did center us as, you know, and this is what we can do. This is what a commission is supposed to do. We are not there to create the brand new product. We want to hear from you what is happening and what can we do to enhance, but then also saying we also want to partner with you. We don't want it to just be about Albany County. It needs to be all of us. And there were some really interesting presentations that we did here, and again, I had a couple of ideas that came up, but significantly Devin Lander spoke first, and they had the state commission had just met, I think even the day before. So they are doling out money to the different commissions, but so our commission, and they just put Albany Capital Region, how they are doling out the money is based on the pre-K through 12 education, like the population that you have in there, because this money is coming through state ed. And so we are getting 21,300. So that would be sent to our commission. We are figuring out
I'll take it.
how, they have to figure out how that is going to be done.
And the other half is state parks, they get the other 50%.
Yeah.
And we have to do what, make education stuff?
No, so that was a great Jack McEnany raised that question. He says, does this have to be tied to K through 12? And they said, interestingly, no. So it can be, I mean, of course, that's what they would love to see, but exhibits, research, restoration, but how we get this money, timeline, things like that, where they are figuring that out, because every commission is different. But
Hi, Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Restroom there?
Yeah, go and make a left.
Just as a real quick aside,
It's next to the other door.
ballpark, where are we with our budget right now for the remainder of the calendar year?
The last I
That's
heard.
that's a different item.
Okay, sorry.
We'll get to it.
yeah, so more to come on that. Luckily, we have a great relationship with Devin, so he can nudge, but I figured we'd give him a few weeks, and I wanted to tell the commission. So, but yeah, so
That's
yay,
great.
that was some good news. You know, there's questions about it being tied to that population, but we're not gonna make way. They took a long time for them to get to this point.
Well,
So,
education's a pretty
and-
broad topic, right?
well, like I said, this does not have to be tied to education.
Yeah.
It's just that the fact that how the funding for the municipalities is tied to your pre-K through 12 population. So, yeah, so I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. So that was great. I think us positioning ourselves was also wonderful. They also, Massachusetts spoke for their commission. So of course they have oodles of money, but he talked about some really simple things that you could do. You know, I think we've brought it up before, but you know, working with your local cemeteries for flags, right? You know, can you find where some of the soldiers where the veterans were and doing the flags?
The town of Guilford was doing that.
Yeah. So it's like finding out. But if one municipality is doing it, you know, can we get others
Right,
involved?
See,
Street signs, you know, and it's not renaming street signs, but I think about, you know, we have Steuben Street, and what is that? And that, you know, you could, the existing street signs, draw that back to the Revolution. I think it's expensive, but the idea of doing projections on some of these historic buildings that are just so neat, these light shows where you just project onto them. But so it's just there were little attainable things that he brought to us. And he also brought up you're finding local celebrities with ties to the union. I forget who his example was, but you know, but I just know she's not local. But Reese Witherspoon, my dad's always oh yeah, she's got ties to. So do we know any local celebrities who came from from Albany County? And do they have a genealogical tie? And reach out to them, just let them know what we're doing. So that was all pretty good. I'm sure I should have
By
done.
the way, in 1976 for the bicentennial,
Mhm.
I was a city archaeologist, and I got the street department to make the signs of the original names of all the Albany streets downtown, and we put them up under the
Well, there's that great book,
whole year.
Cradle of Liberty,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird. I never know why it's a great title, but
Yeah,
it's all the history of Albany
of the
streets.
streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people went wild for it when it was published.
Yeah.
So
Hanover Street.
there was another one too. Was there was he was from the towns, but there.
Chris Krotzel, former supervisor in Glenville,
Yes.
butchering his last name.
So they're doing celebrating towns roles in America's story, So let me see if I can pull that up. I just looked back to my notes. I was like, oh, I forgot about that. But yeah, he's the something of towns. I'm forgetting the title.
Executive Director of the New York State Association of Towns.
There it is. Looky, good job. Good job. So they are highlighting different municipalities. So for the deadline, November 15th, I can get that contact information out there. But and they're promoting that on social media, Facebook. But yeah, so I'm getting tied in with that. So.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah, and I also attended. I thought it was a good conference, as I noted. Two things that struck me was I don't know necessarily that we're totally unique, but I was affirmed in our decision to cover the entirety of the revolution. It just seems most of the other entities were really geared towards either next year or the year in which something big happened in their jurisdiction, i.e. 1777 with Saratoga. I didn't hear of a lot of other ones that had sort of the wider scope that we've taken for ourselves. And that made me feel good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Our regional that we wanted to cross our county boundary line.
Yes, yes. And the other thing that struck me was several counties, Dutchess, Westchester, presented on their initiatives.
You mean
and
the original Albany County?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, they weren't.
Well,
Dutchess and Westchester weren't.
Ulster was.
Was Ulster?
Yeah.
Dutchess was not.
But
I
not
know that.
Westchester.
Okay. Yeah, but they presented on their initiatives, and several are tying into beverages and beer and pubs and things like that, which struck me as, that is a constituency that we haven't really thought about. Right? I mean, our approach with lectures and things like that, and we saw at the Ken Burns, that's going to get the 60 and older crowd, right? They're going to turn out, and they turn out for the historical societies and things like that. We can kind of force programming in to young people through the schools, right? But there's a big hole of, what about people who are 22 to 50, right? Where are they?
They
And
come
what
to
do
my-
we have?
Yeah, and they come to my pub lectures.
We are gonna have bourbon, right? We're gonna have the.
That's true.
Yeah, but they can't afford it. So
Right, but 12 o'clock?
No, it's a fire.
Closing the doors and then solving.
I was gonna say that.
Open,
So I just put it out.
I have a brewer friend of mine, in Troy, who brews for the place in Gilroy. And when we did a history of fashion show for William Walker a couple of years ago, he made a 1803 table beer, which was a popular beer in 1803, and we gave that free to all the participants. I could talk to him about maybe coming up with some kind of a early Albany beer,
Okay.
not an O'Connell beer, but an earlier beer, and maybe they could, come up and make a batch of, local brewery.
Okay, that's an idea.
The other thing is Omegang. Omegang donates money for causes. When we were working on the unrest, they helped us. So why don't I approach Omegang and say, hey, this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. Wouldn't it be cool if you came up with an early Albany beer?
we would ruffle feathers with that. Yeah,
Why?
because
They're in
that's how
Cooperstown.
they're in
It's
Cooperstown.
at Siegel
And we
County.
have so many local brewers.
They're at Siegel County.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's true, but they're national.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah, the county has
How about I just get some
vested
money for-
interest in the Albany County.
We have
But if I could get money from them, that would be okay, right?
I mean, to promote.
To sponsor something? No?
I don't know.
Stick to local brewery?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
focus
I'll
closer
stick
to
to the
home.
local.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And it's, people between the ages of 25 and 50 don't just go to pubs,
Yeah.
right? So
Well-
I challenge us all to think
Yeah.
about.
Yes,
well, there's
Gen
some-
Z right now, they're not drinkers.
Right.
They're just not
Yeah.
drinkers.
They don't do anything, actually.
They'll come out, so they'll come to Nine Pin, but they don't necessarily get the cider when they're there. They'll get the non-alcoholic. The museum's doing great with Common Roots with their events, but so they can kind of go and see gathering, but the draw of getting the beer isn't like it was pre-COVID.
How about meat? There's a place, there's The place that used to have Elsie the cow, that used to have.
Bull and Bee.
What's the name of it?
Bull and Bee is the one in Albany.
No, it's in Castleton.
It's
There's a,
okay.
there's a
In Hellebury.
winery, they make wine and they make mead.
Yeah.
And of course, that's where they were drinking mead. I could talk to her, I know the owner.
Well, Bull and Bee's in Albany County, so that's the thing, is I don't know. Yeah, that's a tragedy.
They make
runs-
mead?
They make mead, yeah.
Oh,
Yep, they're right in Albany.
okay.
We keep coming back to booze.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, there's still the pub. So what my experience has been doing the programming, like, you know, like Common Roots is still a gathering space. It's just, you know, the draw isn't always, like when we did the Proust event with Craig Gravina and we would make the historic beer and like that was like people were like, I'm there for the beer.
Right.
And then they got the history, and now Gen Z, they're kind of coming out of their shell a little bit. They don't necessarily want to drink, but they want to meet people. So I wouldn't, you know, discount the pubs, but, you know, and I think we should have like something branded, but, you know, it's something that I'm also adjusting to with my programming, is that the young people are just not as driven by alcohol.
Yeah.
How
It's not
about
bad.
like a restaurant, a lot of these communities where, like Schenectady they work with restaurants, and one day you could buy, all the dinners were $16.61,
Mhm.
because that's what Schenectady was founded.
Yeah,
Maybe we could do something similar with our pubs.
yeah. The downtown Albany
16, 14.
nixed that. They used to do that, but with the cost of everything, fixed price.
I mean, just
But-
based on my son who's 21 years old, the only place in the city of Albany that his group gathers in is in the warehouse district.
Oh, yeah,
That's it.
yes,
Otherwise, they don't go out.
yeah,
It's like the only place.
Interesting.
yeah.
And
the
to your
li-
point, it's amazing because I think back when I was 21, and they
Yeah.
do not drink
I
like we
remember
do.
I didn't
Yeah.
go
It's
down
like,
anywhere
So-
near the warehouse.
yeah.
I would say COVID, at least my generation, like, COVID was too much. I think is what it was. When people came out of the pandemic, we're like, that was a lot. We're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
step back.
Well, like I said, you know, our meetings aren't necessarily a place to come up with specific
Right.
iterations. I just raise it to challenge us to be thinking, you know, of that broad demographic, and when we design things to try to make sure it's relevant to, you know, young people on their own, young families, right?
Yes.
We've learned that if you bring the kids to something, the parents get dragged along,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
that's.
Are you tying this in at all to Jennifer? You weren't here for the last meeting, but Jennifer's 3-minute.
That's in the new business.
We haven't gotten there. I'm
Yeah, we
sorry.
haven't gotten
Okay,
there
I
Yes,
got
I know,
off
I've been
I got
like-
off the script, so, okay.
Okay, so the Lake George Conference, that was very good, and again, thank you, Maeve, for taking the lead on that. Also, in terms of other public-facing events, we mentioned the Ken Burns, before the meeting started, we talked about Ken Burns' event at the Palace. I was glad to see, thank you again to Sandy Zarillo for providing us tickets.
And our brochures flew
Yeah, a
off.
lot of them went.
They
Yeah,
really went.
and thank you to those of you who staffed the table that we had at that event.
Beaver
so-
Pelt was a big hit.
And the
The
beaver pelt.
Yep. And then the only other thing I have on sort of public interface is this Saturday, we'll have a table in Altamont at the historic Altamont event for the ribbon cutting for the new trail kiosk. They've invited historical societies and what have you to participate, and so we'll be there.
Is that in Orsini Park?
Yes, and we're looking for people, particularly who live in Yodeland, to perhaps man the table.
Why are you looking at
during
me?
it for that event. Did I miss any other sort of public-facing events that we've had or that are upcoming?
That's it.
Okay, so let's move on. Bear with me. Let's see. The last item under old business that is not on the agenda is the grant process. And I know Maeve, you've been in, Maeve and
Yeah.
Don have been in discussion with folks from the county on sort of the nuts and
I'm
bolts and
trying to, I
logistics.
called 3 times.
Oh, I got lucky.
Yeah.
You got lucky?
They've
Yeah,
got- they've got
so,
through, so
I
glad you
spoke
did.
to Cameron Sagan, Director of Policy, and he's, and Anna, who comes to our meetings. So they are connecting me with the purchasing department, and the purchasing department who, the county gives out grants, like this is not a new process, so they have best practices, they have a whole system in place, and then after purchasing, and that there's another person to talk to how you get the money. So it is, the thing is this is all already done and established. We don't have to, you know, make this up ourselves. There is.
Was there a Sarah involved?
No. So.
I talked to somebody named Sarah.
But so what we're doing, so what I would propose, because we, you know, have had, you know, we've had submissions and whatnot. I do firmly believe we got everything out way too soon. That we may want to write to people who have submitted their grant and just say, we're on hold right now. You are in here, you don't have to resubmit, but currently we are on hold. Probably until January 1st, to really get this done right. Because talking to them, you know, like one thing we hadn't figured out is, okay, it's a rolling grant the whole year, or is it quarterly, is it twice a year? We do agree, and Jen Dorsey had brought up, you know, having a rubric or scoring, and there is an advantage if we say, okay, this is the first set, you know, if we get a batch of them, we're actually scoring against other ones, right? So if we score, if one grant comes in, and we're like, oh, this is great, and then 2 months later, an even better one comes in, it's like, oh, but we spent that. So I think there's a lot of logistics. I do think there's still a lot of merit in this. I think it still protects us. If somebody ever audited our commission, we would have all of this. But I do think we need to take a step back. But I would propose to the commission that maybe we want to write the people who submitted so that they're not like, what's going on, and saying we're on hold till January 1. And then hear from the county officials, what do you do with your grant, right? So moving forward, and just do it as close as possible to how they do it. So that was kind of.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that
Yeah.
coincides with the conversation I had with Patrick that I shared with you, because Patrick said this all goes under the purview of purchasing, believe it or not,
Yes.
is where it starts.
But the only
Yes.
one that was really.
We realized we
important
just
to
did not know what
us.
we were doing.
Right,
And
right.
I told Sandy that, you know, we have to
Well,
redo things.
approved, but there are also some that have submitted in the pipeline, so we
Right.
need to
And I
communicate
can
to
send
them.
them a little email
Yeah.
just saying,
Yes.
you know, we're still working on the technicalities of it.
Okay.
It's not gonna take place till next year.
Yeah.
But please submit, you know, we get another one.
But I do think we want to give ourselves, we got to do January because that's 2026, and some of these folks are planning ahead,
Yeah.
Right.
right? So I do want to put a little pressure on us, like let's get this done in January.
Yes, definitely.
You know, and we're saying the word grant, you know, and I think grant's still appropriate because we're saying nonprofit, but you and I talked about, is the phrase sponsorship more appropriate for what we're doing, or does it not matter?
Well, I mean, the grant program is a distinct program. It is not the means by which this commission funds the thing that this commission wants to do, right? And I think I was going to bring that up because in the course of the budget process, right, we're going to start preparing our budget request for next year, right? So let's say we have a great concept that we want to do. Maybe it's the Tembrook exhibit. There are these exhibits. That is not the saying, oh, that's something we want to do and bring it to life. Let's run that through the grant process.
No.
That's
We
something
should
that
have
would
our
be
stuff
exactly.
and then other people's stuff.
Exactly. So sponsorships, I think, would be separate from what we envisioned with the grant
Oh, okay.
program.
Okay.
Right? I think the
That makes
grant
a lot of
program, to me, is a discrete program designed to involve not-for-profits in, you know, in this
Individuals.
overall
Yeah.
activity.
Yeah.
Right?
And individuals who will work through nonprofits.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of talented people out there, a lot of historians and young people
Yeah.
who don't belong to a
Right.
nonprofit.
And I think the grant program is also a recognition of, you know, yeah, we know a lot about the subject, we know a lot about this county, but we don't know everything.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of talent in this county that, you know, have ideas and things.
Right.
So let's have a process by which they can, you know,
Yeah.
be involved.
It
Hopefully
can't just
foster
be us or
younger
all-
people
Yeah.
into thinking about history
Yes.
as a career, for example.
So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
I don't know that necessarily requires a vote.
Okay.
But we will, if you will, let those who have already applied
Yeah.
know.
Can I make a suggestion and just tell me if
Yeah.
this doesn't coincide with, but is it possible that to keep this kind of simple, that we can figure out what we need to do in terms of the grant process, but we make our decision regarding the grants that the requests that have come in for 2025 before January 1st,
Yeah.
2026.
Yeah, yeah.
So we
That's
get
great,
that
yeah.
off the table, and then we move into the new calendar year, at that point, knowing
Yeah,
the
that's a great
process
idea.
much better.
Yeah, and we only have enough, if I remember right, for 3 grants. I think there was 23,000 left in the budget the last time that Patrick gave me the figure.
And again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, because we haven't discussed it as a committee, but we think of the grants that we've received so far, there really is only one that we've all kind of
Right,
agreed.
it has to go home.
So,
I think it was
but
one.
again, I'm not discounting the other.
And
the
I've
other
already let
grants.
Sandy know that, you know,
Right.
we've had to postpone things,
Okay.
so they're aware of it.
Okay. And just a reminder, again, as we do the budget process, now is the time for things that you think that are worthy, exciting, you know, flesh them out now and bring them to my attention or Don's attention or Maeve's attention, so that we can, you know, if we feel it's worthy, that we would include it in our request for funding for next year. Okay, just the last item under old business is we've talked about this, the historic Crounce Farm. I have a call, I think on Monday, with the Deputy Commissioner of New York State Parks, Deputy for Preservation, I think Deputy Commissioner McKay, with some other folks from Mohawk Hudson Land Conservancy, whatever, to talk about the Crounce Farm. And the objective is to inform the state of the historic nature of the property that is a part of what they're in the process of purchasing, a portion of that property, inform the state as to the historic significance of the other portion of the property, and see what the appetite might be for them to, you know, continue their purchasing and get the whole thing. For our purposes, you know, the idea of a heritage trail going from downtown Albany through the various sites as you work your way west out to Switskill Park, which is a Canal County facility. The Crounce Farm sits right in the middle of that. So without any specific idea or any specific, you know, plan of use, I think I'm on solid ground in saying that, you know, given its historic significance and its geographic location relative to this trail concept, it would be something that the county would have a strong interest in seeing, you know, preserved
Yes.
for future.
Yeah, nice working farm,
Future use.
18th century farm would be nice.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for old business. Quickly going to new business.
There's 2 on there, and I
Yeah.
have a couple of others that
Okay.
came across, but
Um,
just to put on the list.
Yeah, let's go off the list and then we'll,
Yeah.
New York State Museum lectures, that's your,
Yeah, so I met with Catherine Morehouse, who again, is sort of the head of the educational stuff they do there, outreach and stuff. And talked to her about, we were going to do a lecture program in conjunction with them. And she said, well, yeah, let's do it, and we'll also pay the honorariums for our speakers, up to $1,500 a person, that's pretty remarkable. So, and we had already talked about some of the people who we thought would be good. So the person from Fort Ticonderoga, Matt, who's an expert on the Knox, he can't make, we were going to start in December, but he can't do December. So it looks like we might start in January to see if he could do that. We had Eric Scheitzer from the Battle of Saratoga. He works there. They didn't fund him, for some reason they didn't want to fund him. So I gotta get more info on that. There's a woman named Liz Covert who did her PhD on Albany and the Revolution. She has a podcast in Boston, she's pretty well known up there. She said she'd be glad to come down and do it. So I put her in touch with CAD so they could negotiate the money part. And I also thought Tom Porter, we need to get a Native American perspective on this, and he represents the Mohawks. And, you know, they were on, not necessarily on side, but you know, we should hear from them. So I wrote to
not
him.
necessarily on our side means they were actively fighting against us.
Yeah. Well, I try to be
I
diplomatic.
know.
Unlike the Oneidas, you know. So I sent him an email, see if he would be interested. Jennifer, at the last meeting, said that she had program that she did. I forgot what it was called.
In New York in the Revolution, she presented at the Gilderman Library about a month ago. It was very good.
So I sent her and asked her if she would consider doing it. Somebody to talk about the Battle of Armistice and Flocky, and I thought maybe that could be you.
Probably Mark Stolzenberg is a better
Or Mark.
from Schoharie.
Yeah.
He's more of an expert.
Timothy Shannon from the Gettysburg College has agreed to speak.
Who?
Timothy Shannon, who's the author of Crossroads of Indians, Colonists, and Empire, about the Albany Plan,
To speak with us?
or through this.
Oh, let's do it through
Either
that.
way,
If
yeah.
you give me his info.
Well,
Yeah.
it seems pretty obvious that there's an abundance of potential content.
Yeah.
What I would task you with is framing up the
The overall title?
exactly, not just the title,
Yeah, but,
again, how it would work,
right.
and again, with the experience of the grant process behind us or informing this, you know, how will this relationship with the museum work such that they are funding it,
Yeah,
right? And try to get as much
yeah.
laid out in advance so that we can bring it back to the commission and say,
Yeah.
yes, this is
Yeah, the bottom line is we don't have to pay for it, and they were willing to pay for it.
right.
And so what Kat asked me to do is just to ask our speakers to contact her. They'll do all the paperwork. We don't have to, all we have to worry about is content, not cost.
But if you would kind of put that in
Yeah, I'll
a
put it all together.
proposal to us, so to speak,
Yeah.
you know, this particular initiative. I like it because it doesn't, as you relate it, it doesn't involve an expense on our part, so.
No, but as we build a budget, I think it's also helpful when we build the budget, it's like, okay, we got sponsorship for this, but the talent we wanna bring in is valued.
Yeah,
Yes.
we want to bring Ken Bird.
Good point,
Yeah.
good point.
Okay.
Okay, this 3-minute,
So at the last meeting, Dr. Jen Dorsey proposed something she had seen at a conference, and again, as we talk about this engaging new audiences, the commission was very warm to. So what she saw at the conference is they did a program called I Wish I Knew About the Revolution Like Blank. It might have had a zippier name than that, but that was the prompt the historians were given. The historians had 3 minutes and 1 slide. And they could prepare ahead of time, but then they had a 3-minute pitch about what they wish people knew about the revolution. So somebody was like, I wish people knew that the revolution was fashionable. And they did a 3-minute talk about the uniform. Somebody goes, I wish people knew that there was a little ice age and things like that. So, you know, Jen's like, I know academics, we all know historians, that this was something that would not be a difficult lift. It's definitely something that I've run in my capacity at work. But then we said, you know, we know so many people and our county is so wide that it is a program that could be taken on the road. And to your point, you know, it could be at a pub, it could be, you know, all these different places. We looked at President's Week, somewhere in President's Week could be a time in February because it would feel like a kickoff. It was brought up, and part of it is just because they are my next door neighbors, you know, because Common Roots has been doing these history talks and they have a following and partnering with the New York State Museum, you know, seemed like, okay, we could do that, it's Quackenbush, but, you know, definitely open, I think we just need kind of that bigger space. But yeah, so that's what she pitched. She sent me a Google document of like some of the people she was thinking of. But again, they're not too difficult. The big thing is just making sure you have the screen, AV, you know, microphone.
so for a consumer, they're in a place,
Yep.
Common Root or some place,
Yeah.
and it's like a speed dating with historians?
It's meeting with historians, and Jen said for the commission, we would wanna have it tied to a case, right? Because that's the whole idea, and so if we bring in somebody, it's like, oh, for 3, you know, but I only have 3 minutes, so if you wanna learn more, and then where could they go
Okay.
to
But the
learn?
museum-
So would there be more than one historian?
Yes, yep,
And
I
so-
think that's a great way
So
to.
it'd be like 10 in the room.
Yep,
So
so
they
they have
all-
3
they only
minutes,
get
yes, they
3
have 3
minutes.
So is
minutes.
it like going to like a
Pechakucha.
stand-up
It's like a trivia.
comedian and comes up and does this 2-minute
No,
bit?
it's like, has anyone done a Pechakucha before? I've done Pechakuchas, they're funny, they're, you know, you are given, I think, 8 minutes and 8 slides, and you get 1:50 to speak, for your whole talk. So you gotta get your story out quick, tight, fast, so it's kind of like that, as you get the historian, that historian has 3 minutes and 1 slide. And so they have to prep, and do their pitch,
That can be
and,
fun.
but
Yeah.
leave people waiting hungry, like, oh, but I wanna know more about that, and then they connect with the story afterwards, or we have those brochures to say, and you can go here to
I
learn more.
may come from a different time, but I can't imagine doing this without having a beer in my hand.
Yes, and that's what they did, this was at the conference, it had a beer, and so, that was where she brought up Common Roots, because they do this, but again, if we wanted to
Brackenbush would be
have,
perfect.
well, it's not big enough, yeah, you can only.
Common Roots is perfect.
Yeah,
And what would our involvement, we would sponsor it?
I think we have a table. I don't even think there's any money we want to put forward, but I can find out. But yeah, it would be sponsoring, having what we did for Ken Burns, having our table there. Jen's already been putting together some of the historians, but I think we would get right of first.
Are we marketing to the college? I mean, where's our
So-
focus?
Yeah,
So I think that's where we would organize by having these different historians. All of us have our own network.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so tonight I'm doing Albany-specific trivia night with Albany Public Library. So Discover Albany's been marketing it, Albany Public Library's been marketing it, which, because Albany Public Library marketed it, it's been getting picked up by others.
And how many people do you get?
I will find out. I will.
What about doing it at the school?
It's,
at the
so the
college?
public ones are, so I've been getting a mix for my library programs, because they're free.
You know, did they show up?
No.
The college?
So like my Gilded Age walking tour is definitely a
I mean,
mix.
I love history, but couldn't imagine just.
I don't
doing
see
that
college
just
kids
because
leaving.
it's
Oh, they do it.
That's so plus.
Well, it's not,
totally
I don't
do.
think college kids
Well,
are
that's what,
necessarily
so
the
the
target audience.
the museum's
It's a-
been doing history happy hours. And so the history happy hours, they get
Now
a
you're
screen.
talking, now we're
Yeah,
talking.
so it's the
who's the
same
target
thing,
audience?
so they'll pick one theme, and you
People
get
who
your
would
beer.
people who go to these other existing,
Like the trivia night people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's gonna be more like the history happy hour people.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the crew. But yeah, but I mean, that's why getting a diverse set of speakers that our network.
Which is actually a pretty important constituency, right?
Mhm.
Because it's, I mean, if you use the analogy of sort of the pebble thrown in the pond,
Yeah.
right? There's us who are really intense, and then there's people out there that have a greater interest in this stuff than your average person.
Yep,
And if we can impress them with
yeah,
our work,
yeah.
right, then they become
And those trivia
ambassadors.
people like history.
Yeah.
They gotta know history,
Yeah.
they answer the trivia.
But like I would love, like this would be an opportunity for the Siena College University student who volunteered with us. He was hungry to talk about military something or other. Like, give him 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Give him 3 minutes.
I like it. What do we have to do in order to make it
Um,
happen?
so I'll tell Jen, we are a go, because I don't think we need to vote on this. I think for us, it's, look at February as that time, because people are away, but also it's snowy, so not everybody, so is February break a good idea, bad idea? And then I think when we pull together when she, that list of historians, it comes to us and we say, if we do Common Roots for the first one, I do think this could go on the road. So
Yeah.
I think what we would wanna think about is in our
Go with the-
community, yeah. So I
Great.
think that's what we wanna think about.
Yeah, tell her,
But maybe
By all
spring
means.
would be better, because February is such an iffy month.
But she wanted a kickoff. So this was her proposal for a kickoff to get people, as things are closed, like, oh, you wanna learn more, and so to get them thinking about.
February is the one month of the year where there's very little going on in terms of
Yeah.
extracurricular sports and
Yeah, but
other
also
things that,
The weather is up and
True.
down.
true.
Yeah.
But
Although believe it or not, the State Museum Lecture Series, they get more people in the wintertime.
Yes.
than-
Yeah.
Yeah, we do
Oh,
for
my-
ours too.
Yeah,
Always do.
me too. If I do a lecture, I mean, that's with Dad's, the public library.
Yeah.
If you got a beautiful day,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay, great, thank you. What else?
So speaking of Albany Public Library, I just knocked that out. So, Dad spoke, he did a talk there. I've been in connection with them. Next year, they're gonna do a lot of theme programming around Albany and the Revolution. So they're looking at doing book club readings, winter and summer. In their summer challenge, what they do to get people out, where they drive people to heritage sites and different books to read and lectures. They're gonna keep that 250 theme. There was a program we used to do, History Race, where we would get people driving around in one day to different sites, take a selfie, and whoever gets back first. But they really want to embrace that they want to do 250 programming, both for
That's
public programming and book clubs. So I just want to put that out there. But of course, they're Albany, city-centric, so if we have connections with Gilder and whatnot, again, kind of put that seed out there to other libraries saying, oh, Albany Public Library.
I met with Joanne at the Altamont Library last week,
Yeah,
talking about, lecture series, same kind of stuff.
yes.
So I can mention that to her.
But, yeah, and then I would say we would connect the libraries to make sure they're not pulling from the same historians.
Right.
But I know APL will be reaching out to us to possibly do more talks
Okay.
like that. So that was a great thing.
Well, our standard roadshow, we haven't done in Albany yet, so there's that.
Yeah, Dad did his own thing.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
But he did,
I
but
did.
I gave up, but he also did the Jack McEnany. It was good, it was very, very good, but he was like, I don't need PowerPoint. I'm like, okay, off you go. On October 10th, we have travel writers, booked from I Love New York coming. It's called a FAM Tour, Familiarization Tour. So they are traveling all along, I think, they're starting downstate and working their way up, ending of course in Saratoga, but they will be doing a night here in Albany.
Who are they?
They're travel, it says I Love New York, but they're
Oh, I
multiple
Love
travel writers, so, and they're not giving us who they're from, but they're high-end travel writers. So, Discover Albany, we help them with the agenda. They're getting here in the afternoon, so they will be going to Schuyler Mansion, they are going to the New York State Museum. But then Jeff and I inserted ourselves, as we tend to do, and said, let's get them trying to go to the Hilltown, so they're gonna zoom up as fast as they can from the museum to try to catch a sunset or something at Thatcher Park. So I know we have to connect on that timing, because it's one thing to talk about, it's unless you have an historian there to tell you what you're looking at. So I think I have you and Dad on standby for that.
Happy to do it.
So that's gonna be kind of a quickie thing, and then they're gonna come down and have dinner at the English Pub. I have a ghost tour that night, so I may be able to see them in a ridiculous costume and say hi to them, but I'll be able to meet them at Thatcher Park. But that's a pretty exciting thing, and again, that role of the commission to say, like, they were gonna stay right in the city, and we said, yeah,
Great,
but.
thank you for thinking along those lines.
So that was good, and then maybe a tabling opportunity if there's availability on October 19th. The replica Erie Canal ship, Seneca Chief, which has already left Buffalo, is making its way to Albany. They're getting here on Saturday, so they'll do tours in Troy, like around the farmer's market, and then they're gonna come to Albany, where they're staying over at the USS Slater. Because that's what I've been putting people lately. But the Irish Museum's gonna do an evening hosting them, honoring them. But the Sunday morning and afternoon, it will be open for tours. So they've asked for community partnerships, they asked for tabling. They'll have somebody doing like beer samples of the official bicentennial. So while not necessarily, 250 related, it is cultural heritage tourism. I'm going to be there, but I will be, I'm potentially on the boat at some point. I don't really know what's going on. And kind
Can we be dressed as a skull remade?
I would love to. I would love a budget for maid costumes. Like, you think I'm joking. No shame. But that's, yeah, so, and they'll have some interpretive paneling about the Erie Canal and whatnot. So I can send more information as that's coming. I've been helping them just kind of logistically, like, do you have permits? You need to get permits, but I know that there'll be some community outreach to potentially table if any of us are available.
Yeah.
If not, I can just wear my sticker.
Well, given its timing, we won't meet again before that, so let's do it via email to the commission members and see who might be interested in
Sounds good?
manning the table.
Sounds great. And if they can't stay the whole time, I could probably break it down.
Okay.
All right, that was my new
That's it?
business. Yeah.
All right, I just had one item in new business, and that is the initiative called the Northern Department, which is, I think, an initiative primarily for Ticonderoga, and it's their way of sort of bringing in a regional focus to their work, and they've reached out and they're partnering with entities in the Northern Department, which was the definition of that army that basically from, I think, West Point north all the way to Canada. And they've done a beautiful website, you know, and Fort Ticonderoga does everything very, very well. Except there's this pretty significant omission, is that there's no mention at all of Albany in the Albany department, in the Northern Department, despite the fact that Albany was the headquarters of the Northern Department, and, you know, was the objective of all the British efforts was to get to Albany. So, I don't know whether they just overlooked or whatever, but I've asked Don.
It's a big missed over.
Yeah, I've asked Don to reach out to the folks at Fort Ticonderoga and, again, sort of insert ourselves and
Right.
offer to correct that omission and make sure we're involved in that particular
Yeah.
initiative.
Since we were the headquarters,
Yeah,
I think it would be mentioned.
yeah. So maybe by next meeting you can
I already
report back.
I sent
Oh,
out
good,
an email to the director of the woman.
good. Good, I think that's it.
Just,
Anyone
just
else
one
have
last
any-
thing, I just want the commission, we talked about this before, but I'd like to ask the commission to look into the possibility of, along with the grant process, but creating academic scholarships for local students, Albany County students who will be attending colleges in Albany County, history majors. And I was thinking, as we discuss the grant process, maybe we could also say, hey, what about scholarships? Is there anything we need
That's
to
a
know?
different, a separate.
It's a totally separate thing, but I would like to
How much?
see, again, we'll have that as a discussion, but I'd like between now and the end of the year, the commission to decide whether or not that's something that we want to do, and then for 2026, maybe award a couple of scholarships.
Could a scholarship also be, so of course, like college, could a scholarship also be for a conference if there was a young person who wanted to attend, you know, the Museum
Good idea.
Association conference?
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
So would it be called scholarship or?
I think there's still scholarship
Scholarship.
programs, yeah.
Which brings me to my last question,
I can look
is
into
what
it.
is our budget right now? And my question is our budget, does it roll over into calendar year 2026, or do we have to use it or lose it?
Use it or lose it.
So we gotta use it.
Okay.
When's it end? December? Is it a January?
Yeah, is it-
December?
Yes.
Isn't it unusual? The government, I thought it was
So we need to think about that, too.
Yeah, we got 2 months.
So if you could let us know, I guess, what's left. And this is
Well,
about.
the last time I talked to Patrick, which was, you know, just a couple weeks ago, it was 23,000 and some change.
But we haven't had Patrick here for a while.
Right.
And I know we've done.
But I'll send him an email when I get home.
That's net of your salary?
Yeah,
You've been paid?
that's what's left,
Okay.
23. So, that's why last month I said, well, I think we have enough for 3 grants.
Right.
If we do up to 5 for each. And then we have a few left over for, you know,
So,
other things.
But now the grants won't be funded until next calendar year, so
Yeah, so
Right.
we need to spend that money.
Right, so,
I wouldn't phrase it, we need to spend that money. We
No.
just- We need to be
No.
aware of.
right.
well, we know
Right.
where we want, we have these.
Well, we have the money,
Opportunities,
that's why
but-
we have the money, is
Yeah.
to use it.
So that's good though for me when I, connect with the county again, is put that pressure on is, it would be nice if we could dole this out, before the end of the fiscal year.
But
Yeah.
conservative in me will say, we have to make sure that we need to focus on a worthy
Yes,
Correct.
expenditure.
yes.
We're not just gonna,
Spend money,
just to
spend
spend- just to
money.
spend
Yeah,
money.
no.
Well, the Cahones one is a good one.
Yeah,
We
Cahones.
already kind of approved that, so we can always, that was almost $5,000.
Now, I'll act as the bureaucratic contrarian here. Do we get, if we don't use all of the budgeted money in a given year, do we get penalized the next year?
not necessarily,
Okay.
not necessarily.
We should be asking for more money each
Well-
year, right?
But I'm just saying, they'll say, well, you didn't use
Yes.
it all
But again,
last year.
And that's
Why
why.
That's,
are we gonna
that's,
give it
that's
to you this
based
year?
on
So-
programmatic, you don't just ask for money because you ask for money, you have to justify it by
Well,
saying,
we're-
here's all the
yeah,
stuff
But
we've
we're
done.
gonna have great
This
programs.
project is scholarship
Yeah.
free.
We already
Yeah.
talked about some great
I
future
just thought
projects.
that as we're
Yeah,
talking
but
about it.
we don't have a dollar amount to it, so I think this idea of scholarship, I think that definitely fits within our mission. What does that cost? Does that fit within our budget as it stands
I mean,
now?
I was thinking like $2,500 scholarships. I mean, when you look at
Yeah.
the smaller scholarships that are awarded to college students at various fundraisers, they're usually in that range. I mean, they're not,
You know
it's
who knows how
nothing.
to do that is Matt, because he gives a scholarship out of his father to Able Park High every year.
Mhm.
Because there is a sort of a legality,
Mm-hmm.
a legal aspect of giving out scholarships.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
No?
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.